Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to the 76th Xamarin Android tutorial. So this video is going to continue directly off of the last one. Uh, didn't want the last one to get too lengthy, and I did want to dive into the server implementation again and what we can do about this. So the problem is that when at least for me, when I run the server code, which is right here, which we worked on 2 videos ago now in the 74th tutorial, I believe. This all works great. However, notice the URL localhost. And from what I can tell, from when I actually tried to connect to the local host from a Xamarin project while this is running, and it just wasn't having it. It wouldn't work for me. It wouldn't let me connect to it. I wasn't sure if it was a issue on IIS Express that doesn't let you do that. If it's the port that's not letting me get in. I did try open up the port. It wouldn't let me. So from the way I'm doing it, the way I'm getting to the server is by actually using an actual server. So that's the C4 beginner server, which a lot of my code is on. You're probably familiar with. That's where a lot of the code resides, and that's actually the server that I'm using on a different port. So that's the one that I showed you guys last video. Let me kind of go to it. I'll show you here in a second. So if you come over here, if you actually look here, you'll see that if you do on port 901, you'll actually get the server implementation of it. And that's the ones, this right here is what I'm using. Let's go ahead and stop this. Is what I'll be using right here. So I'm actually going to be using that server. And if you do want to use your own, my suggestion would be to actually put your SignalR server implementation on a server. So that's going to be the best way on a server that's easily reachable. You probably could install IIS on actual IIS, not Express, on your local box, and then be able to get to it through a local IP like 192.168.x.x. And as long as the correct port's open and you have IIS Express running okay, and of course but you'll still be limited to your client being on your local machine, because unless you start doing some port forwarding and all this stuff, you're not going to be able to get to it. So if I'm just not making sense to you at all right now, then what I do suggest to do, if you don't want to go through all that, you could simply just use the server right here. So this is actually just a dev server. You should be able to reach it, c4beginners.com:901. As long as you do that, you should be able to get in there and do everything that I'm doing. So you are welcome to use this as long as it's up. I'm not sure how long it will be up for. I can't say indefinitely and forever, but as long as this is up, you can try it, and you won't be able. You'll be tied to the methods that are on this server. Of course, I'm only going to have this one right here, so you're only going to be able to send message, an int, color, and a string username to it, and but at least it'll get you through this example and kind of get you going, and you'll be able to do some stuff, but you'll still be limited, but at least you'll be able to get to it through any internet connection. If you do want to set up your own, you're going to have to set up IIS on a server and publish your ASP.NET to it. There's probably many videos out there that show you how to do that. If you guys are having trouble finding some that will help you kind of simply get something up and running locally at least, then leave some comments below, please, and I will make a video to show you how to get a website running up on IIS as simple as possible. Okay, so if you guys can't find anything, then let me know and I will put something up. However, if not, if using this right here just to get this example running, my example, feel free. All right, so that being said, that this is the connection that this is the hub connection is going to connect to, and it's going to be this, what we wrote 2 videos ago. It's going to be that project that port 901 is pointing to. All right, so that being said, what we can do is, now that we have a connection, what we can do is we can set up a chat hub proxy. And this is where we actually connect to the hub, make a hub connection. So what we can do is, so we made a server-wide connection through 901, port 901 on C4 beginners. What we want to do is now make a connection to the chat hub that resides on the server SignalR. And we will do chat hub. And this correlates, this string, guys, correlates with this right here. All right. So this has to be, this is the connection that we are making right here. And it is a hub. So it has to be, and we are connected to this. So now then we can call its methods from this chat hub proxy. All right. So what we can do is we can do chat hub proxy, and then we can do on. And then this is going to be, this is where we choose how many the parameters that are passed in by the server. All right, so I hope that makes sense, and I hope that it will soon, but we're going to pass in a string, so that's kind of, I keep going back and forth, I'm sorry guys, but send message is going to, I'm sorry, update chat message, this method that's going to be on the client, which we have not yet created, is going to pass in a string, an integer, and a string. So that's going to be right here, why we're putting string, int, string. And then what we want to do is, notice how it says event name right here. So this is the event that we want to tie it to. So we'll do update chat message. And just to make that more clear, that's this thing right here. So we can literally copy and paste it, which is just to be safe what we want to do. And because we put string int string, it's now asking for an action for a string int string. So we'll do message, we'll do color, and then we'll do user. Okay, so now what this does is when the server comes in and says, okay, send message, I've been giving a sent message has been called, which the client calls. So we haven't called it yet, but we will. It comes in and runs this code. All right, so once we're done with this method right here, we're going to I'll go ahead and step through it and kind of break it down for you. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to go happen in here. This is when an actual message is sent by the server to the client. So this is update chat message has been called from server. And then we'll wrap this once. So that's when this comes back. It says, okay, but what we want to do is we want to now, before we start writing that code, we're going to want to do a hub connection. And I will explain await here in a second. But we want to do, okay, hub connection dot start. So we actually want to, here's the connection, but we have not yet connected to it until we actually call start. So that's all we're doing right here. We're actually calling it. And what we'll do is, because we're putting this in a catch, or an exception, we want to catch, and we'll do a simple, exception right here, a generic one, just for testing purposes. But if you are wanting to write some production code, I suggest you be a little more explicit on the catch, the exception that you're catching, of course. And let's go ahead, and because I'm using await right here, I'm going to have to specify a sync. And then all this is doing, guys, is saying it's a asynchronous method that will be called on another thread, and it'll start this on another thread, and that way any code that's going to come after it can still continue on it. All right, or any code that's going on in other places can continue. So this is an asynchronous call to start the hub connection. And because I'm using await, I have to make sure that I do a sync. Alrighty, and that's C# 5.0 stuff. All right, so now this is the of course Android stuff, and all I'm doing is I'm wiring up the button that gets clicked. So when the click happens, it actually gets sent. And I'll use a sync again to make this asynchronous. And I will make this O, and then I will do E2. And the reason why I'm calling this E2 is because I already have a parameter named E, and because they're within the same scope, if I named it E there, it would get mad. Let's add that. All right, so still seems to be mad about something. Okay, so I'm not calling await yet, which is fine. I'll do so here in a second. So I need to get my message, the message that was actually called in, and this button, and let me write this code. I'm kind of doing it lazily right here. I'm just kind of on the fly, getting the resources, just because it's besides the point of SignalR. But I will make sure that it makes sense to you guys here in a second. Getting the text of it, and then I am doing await chat hub proxy invoke. So I want to invoke a method on the server. So this is the client now calling the server. And can you guess the method that I want to invoke? If you guessed correctly, it would have been this one right here. And there you go. So that has to be this method right here. And I know to call that method because remember, chat hub proxy is connected to chat hub. So chat hub, call this method inside of chat hub. So it knows about it. It is in scope. And we'll do new object because this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to pass in the parameters. Background color and username. Okay. So that doesn't look happy. Why not? It's actually because it's an array of objects. Forgot that part. All right. So let's kind of step through this code, guys, before we really kind of start the implementation of dynamically adding the text views. So what's going on here? So let's go ahead and start from right here. Let's kind of start from the beginning. So we're making a connection to the server, to the SignalR project. All right, fair enough. And then right here, we're actually making a connection to the chat hub that resides inside of the project. Okay, so that's this thing right here, chat hub. So now we're connected to this, and we now have the client now has two methods it can call. This one's for the JavaScript, so we're not going to really mess with this one. So we're really only worried about this method. So it has this method that it calls, and it has to pass in a message, a color, and a username, which it does. So it gets called right here. So when this button gets clicked, and when I say this button, I mean this button. So this button right here, .click, is this button. And then we get the message from this edit text, which is this edit text right here. So that gets that message when this button is clicked. And when it does that, it says, okay, so the client goes out to the chat hub proxy and invokes a method inside of it, which, going back to here, is this method. And it passes it a message, a color, and a username. Message, background color, username, string, and string. Cool, all is well. And then what that does is it comes into the server and it says, okay, thank you. And it says clients, all of them that are connected to me, call their update chat message function and pass it the message, the color, the username, which is a string and string. And that's what this thing is for. That's what this thing is listening for. So the client is now listening for the server to talk to it and say, I have a method called update chat message, which is right here, and I receive a message, a color, and a user. which is perfect because that's what it's calling. And then now the client can say, okay, well, now what do I want to do with it? And we're saying we want to display the text view, the text that the client, one of the clients, has sent. And this is going to broadcast to 10, 20, 30, however many clients are connected to this server, this instance of the Chat Hub connection. And that is what we're doing here. All right, so I hope that sort of makes sense, and I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of a insight of kind of the flow of this SignalR client server application. So before we actually add in dynamically the text views and the text fields, let's go ahead and just simply what usually easy for me sometimes is just to do a piece of code, and then I'll be able to set a breakpoint on that code just to see if something's getting called or not. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So let's go ahead and start up this day right here. And what I should expect to see is I should expect to see when I call the send message on the server that that this breakpoint gets hit. And let's go to the tablet, and we'll do test blue, okay, and we'll just put in whatever there. Perfect. Okay, so notice that when I hit send, it went out to the server, went out to here, and then called this, and then came back, called this, and my breakpoint got hit. So I know that it's working. I know that it's getting called. That's great news. And the reason why I did that, guys, is because I didn't want to start writing a whole bunch of code inside this method and then look back and see that it's not even getting called. So this is kind of a good green light to go further and start implementing the actual rendering of text views inside of here, the dynamic rendering, because you know, sometimes you'll get caught up and you know, it's always nice to have certain kind of checkpoints that you start at, and that was one of them. So I have confirmed that it's working, and in the next video, which is going to be the final one for this project, we will then finally finish up this application, and all we really have left to do is just to render the stuff dynamically, going and do it, make sure that we do it on the main UI thread.